Hey guys, how's it going? Isabella here from AquaZone Aquarium Services, and in this video we're gonna diagnose from A to Z what could be wrong with your canister filter. So let's come here. I have a canister filter. This is a Sun model. It's working great, but for this video we gonna make it malfunction just to diagnose anything that's wrong with your filter. So number one, okay, when you install a filter, you have to make sure, oh, it's really some out, that it's a good plug, that your plug is actually on, okay? And if you have a little switch here that says test and reset, make sure to press reset so that the actual plug is working and that your breaker is on, okay? Best thing to know that is to actually get a power bar and make sure the power bar glows red, but this one doesn't because it's an old one. But usually the power bar should glow red on reset, and that's the off, okay? So make sure you have a good power bar, that the outlet's fine, and we go from there, okay? You gotta make sure none of your tubings are clogged, blocked, or any of the above, okay? So your tubings, your intake, make sure the intake is not clogged with anything, okay? Sometimes you have to literally run a little brush through them to make sure it's not clogged, but if it's a brand new filter, that won't be the issue. But I did see some brand new filters that a piece gets lodged before you install it, and then you're like wondering why it's not working. Number three, you gotta make sure that all the valves are open, okay? Here's more valves, okay? So this would be closed, this would be open, okay? In and out is in the right place. This one clenched in, okay? So if your valves are all open and everything's like on your user manual, it's not that. So you have to listen then, is there any sound, okay? Before you install a canister filter, you have to always fill them up completely. You can't just run it dry, it's not gonna work, because most canister filters, except the Fluval FX6 that has the motor at the bottom, if the motor is on the top, it needs water at the top. The motor has to touch water. That's why with the FX6 it's good, you can fill it like 1/3. As long as the motor here has water, it's gonna run, but it still needs full on water, otherwise it's gonna wait a long time. So if it's full of water and it's not starting, it's probably an internal problem. But if you see that you're lacking a bit of water, sometime what you can do to release the extra air is point it, you tilt it and you point it towards, I'm gonna try to do this like this, you point it towards the outputs. That way some air that's still lodged next to the motor is going to be released. So you do that, see, it just released a bit of air. So they all tend to do that, but in the beginning, one of the tricks is I would literally unplug it. If I knew I was missing a little bit of air, a little bit of water, I would tilt it this way, and then afterwards I would plug it, and just like that a little bit, it's gonna start releasing the extra air. See, I just did it again. All right, so, but if it's not doing any of the above, or if it's leaking, it's an internal problem. If you see leaking here, you either didn't close it properly, you either didn't line it up properly, like in the Fluval 407, 307, if you don't line it up on the right side, it just isn't gonna close, so you're gonna have a leak right here. Okay, so make sure these are well closed. I'm gonna take this filter apart. I'm gonna show you the inside, okay? So we have more things to cover on the inside. Now that I've removed the top, most filters actually disconnect like this with the wires out. I want to tell you two things. Sometimes as the filter gets old, this piece gets old also. Sometimes when you disconnect it, it's gonna still start leaking a little bit, just a bit, you know, if the valves cannot close 100%. Always have a bucket next, so when you do your maintenance, you put this over a bucket. See, we just had a drop. And also here you have little O-rings, right? This, always keep them very well lubed up. That's gonna make the seal that goes in here Most canister filters have the same little O-rings around their tubing part. So always well lubed up, okay? Very thick lube. I'll send you the link on the video. So have this lubed up, have these things lubed up, and always make sure your tubings aren't getting too rigid. If you see they're getting too rigid, they will shrink. It's time to change them. So put this here, and we're gonna bring this baby to the sink. So here we are at the sink. We're gonna take it apart. As previously mentioned, if your filter was making a rumbling noise or no noise at all, it's a motor issue. We have to look inside what the motor issue is, okay? If it was leaking, it's a seal issue or a misalignment of your trays or a misalignment of the head of the filter. All right, first things first, this is your motor, okay? This is your seal. This seal, it's called an O-ring, okay? Make sure it's never too loose, okay? If it gets loose, you need to change it. In between maintenances, always apply a very nice thick layer of quality lube on it. Again, I'll send you the image. This is saltwater filter, so you might see a few little things. So if the motor was not running, you didn't hear any noise, you can test it visually looking at you right now. Find a plug close by and plug it in to see if it runs, okay? If it runs while it's looking at you, okay? Because maybe if you had it misaligned, it was not running properly because it was rubbing against something or it was jammed, okay? So let's try. My filter's working. All right. So let's say it wasn't turning on. If it wasn't turning on, you would have to open it here. Okay, make sure always that it's closed properly here. So 1 second, I pause it and I get back to you. So I got it open. There's things you have to look at, okay? There's a seal here. Hope you can see it. It has to always be lubed up also or changed when it gets loose, okay? Now, if it wasn't running with the cap on, you can retry plugging it with the cap off. And if there was a misalignment of this and this, that was compressing this onto this, that should be functional now. If you plug it, it should start spinning properly, see? But if it was misaligned or, see, okay, I'll remove it for you. I'll show you. This is a little rubber cap that fits into here. This has to be properly aligned and inserted, okay? The cat is assisting. Cat, go away. So here is your turbine. It's your impeller. So, and this is called an impeller shaft. This is made out of ceramic in most filters, and it is very fragile. Do not mess around with it. It can break, it can shatter. If it is ever the case, that could explain your rumbling noise and your lack of spinning. If it gets old, you need to replace it. All right? So make sure this shaft is not damaged or broken or in pieces, because that would be your problem. Just replace that. Now there's another little piece of rubber. That piece of rubber inserts at the very bottom there. See that hole there? So you insert this here, and voila. Now you have to look, is it smooth? If it's smooth and there's no rippling effect, it's in good condition. If all the pieces on top here are there, it's in good condition. If it inserts easily, if it spins just with your filter finger easily, it's in good condition. So it's not that. Now close this back properly. Okay, line it up. Make sure it's lubed up also. I will do it with both hands because it's saltwater filter, sometimes a bit crusty. I'll get back to you. Actually, see, I already made an error. I forgot to put that rubber back in, and oops, and that went here. See how easy an error can be made? So this into here, line them up, huh? There's a groove in here, see? And you push it down a bit, like this, 1, 2, 1, 2. And voila, perfect. Okay, so that should solve this issue. If ever it wasn't running smoothly inside, it's probable that you overheated the motor itself and that inside around the turbine, the compartment swelled and you need to change the head of the filter. That's your worst case scenario because that's the most expensive piece. The rest are like $20, $30 pieces, you know? So make sure to never run your filter dry because you will burn the main motor of the filter. Now let's look at all the compartments, how I line them up, what you should put in them, and let's go. Let's do this. Most filters, they have guidance how you can line up the compartment, the trays. See here on the Sun, that's how you line it up. In the Fluval, it's pretty clear inside how you line it up because one section is smaller, the other one's thicker. Okay, what's important is not to overload your filter. Always have it running loose. You see, like I have holes all around. Even though I never suggest putting this filter floss closest to the motor because it will jam your motor. I did in this case because I only had floss at home that day. But this goes on top, okay? This lines up here. So it's fine, but don't do what I'm doing. Do what I'm saying, okay? So here, technically in the highest compartment close to the motor, or in reverse, if you have an FX6, is your coarsest foam. Okay, coarse porous foam closest to the motor. Always memorize that because it's what's gonna let the water go in and out the easiest and your motor won't burn from overloading itself. Always make sure not to stack too much. See, I still have so much space in here. This is good. Okay. What we put at the very bottom compartment is filter floss. This is a one-time deal. I'll just put it back so it doesn't make noise. It's easy. You take it out, you swap it for a new one. That's it, okay? Next, don't listen to what I did. Listen to what I say. Next, on top of that, you put some less coarse foam and your carbon. And on the very top, you put coarse foam and that's it. Okay, let it aerate. If you have biomedia, you use that as your very last on top. You use biomedia on the very, very top, close to the motor or in reverse. And then once you're all done, you line them up properly, okay? You wiggle it in place. You make sure it's tight, 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 straight, 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 like this. Last but not least, you fill it up with water all the way and you close it. And that should solve most of your problems. Tiny detail I forgot before we close. Put your filter media and carbon and other little stone, whatever you're using inside your filter in bags. Always put it in bags because little particles can escape and lodge themselves inside of your motor. And then it's going to make rumbling noise or stop. So filter media, carbon, all that stuff in bags in the filter. Don't mess around with that stuff. Okay, thank you. All right, and we are back. So make sure, silly as it is, that the in is with the in and the out is with the out. And it's connected to the right tubing, the in and out. Then this has to be pushed in all the way. Okay, if you're having difficulty pushing it in, it's because you didn't lubrify sufficiently the pieces that insert into each other. Then you reopen the valves. You should see some air bubbles or hear them if it's a black tubing. All right, and if you had already suction going from the intake, by the way, your water level has to be high enough, huh? So if it's not high enough, it's nothing gonna happen. If it was down to here, you would wait a long time before you get any suction going on the filter. So make sure everything's full and submerged. Then you plug it in. And remember the trick I told you? Lean it forward like this off the ground. See all the air is coming out? You gotta wait a little bit in this position that all the air comes out, and you have to listen to the motor. Okay, you hear? As long as you hear air bubbles, keep it in this position. Then once you no longer hear bubbles, you slowly try to push it down. Still heard some bubbles. Came out. See how the air is coming out now? There we go. All the way out. And you might have to, you know, go up and down a little bit like that. Several shots until all the air is released. Because you might think it's working now, but if you didn't release all the air, you leave for work, you go, your filter stops and it starts rumbling, you overheat the motor, you break it. Okay? So make sure all your air has come out. Always towards that tubing that it comes out. So there you go, it's running. Now you make sure that there's no leaks. If when you were leaning it, you would see streaks of water going down, that would mean again that your seal inside here has to be changed, your things are misaligned, or these aren't closed properly. If you had a leak here, that piece probably has a crack or, you know, needs lubrication. Just change that piece, order that piece for yourself. Okay, so all is open. If the leak was in the tubing, well, clearly change the tubing. It has a hole in it. Sometimes when you have a cat, the cats, they can poke holes inside your things. And also make sure this is not clogged and it's not sucking up air. If my intake was sucking up air, you'd hear air going in and the motor go, you know, with air inside. So it's very important. I think I covered everything. I'm pretty sure you'll be fine now. I hope that wasn't too long of a video, but there's so many things that can happen with your canister filter. I want to make sure we cover all of them just like I do at work. So thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. If you're not already subscribed to my channel. I can't wait to provide you for more quality videos, and check out all my other videos. I also did a diagnosis and repair of hang-on back filters. Just write it down in my channel. All right, guys, I'll see you later. Thank you. Bye-bye.